welcome to this explainer. Today, we're initiating a classified post-incident archival briefing. As an archival director, I've reviewed countless anomalies, but we're about to dive into one of the most chilling sets of data in our entire database, the decrypted files of Archive 5000-1. We're going to objectively unpack the timeline of a global apocalypse, a localized data ghost of a timeline that thankfully, technically never happened. Accessing the Terminal Sigma 10 directory, we've got 5 main data nodes to cover. We'll systematically process the recovered artifact, Project Pneuma and the subsequent collapse, the tactical deployment of anomalies, the global resistance efforts, and finally, convergence and final sacrifice. Let's get started. Node 1. The recovered artifact, specifically the temporal anomaly logged at Site-62C. Right off the bat, the historical data gets physically paradoxical. On April 12, 2020, a deactivated absolute exclusion harness just materialized right inside the containment chamber of SCP-579 in a massive flash of light. Now, inside this heavily damaged suit was a corpse. DNA confirmed it was a perfect genetic match to Foundation employee Pietro Wilson. The paradox here? Pietro Wilson is currently alive and well. He has absolutely no memory of this suit or the apocalyptic records stored on its damaged memory drives. So how did the subject survive long enough in this dead timeline to compile the data? It comes down to the suit's integrated perception filter. It doesn't make the user invisible, actually scratch that. People can physically see him, but the filter creates a localized cognitive blind spot. Their brains literally just refuse to process his existence. This mechanical variable is exactly what allowed him to travel across continents completely unnoticed, retaining this massive cache of archival data. Moving to Node 2. Project Pneuma and Collapse. This tracks the total erosion of the Foundation's institutional ethics. The source logs detail a terrifyingly rapid, systematic collapse. We're talking just over 2 weeks. December 16th, an initiative called Project Pneuma successfully maps the human collective unconscious. 3 days later, on the 19th, an unexplained wave of suicides tears through senior staff. By the 22nd, files instructing personnel to harden your hearts are distributed, which abruptly stops the suicides. We see a total communications blackout by the 25th, and on January 2nd, 2020, the Foundation officially declares war on humanity. Notice the precipitous drop in institutional integrity here. The very moment they mapped the human psychospace, their operational morality just completely flatlined. This collapse vector culminated with Mobile Task Force Zeta-19 systematically executing their own unsuspecting personnel at Exclusionary Site 06. The subject, Pietro Wilson, was the sole survivor of this initial purge purely because he managed to get that exclusion harness powered on right before the attack hit. Immediately following that internal purge, the O5 Council broadcast a singular, synchronized global transmission. It went out to all governments and anomalous agencies. The text is entirely clinical and absolutely chilling. Quote, "Our previous mission centered around the containment and study of anomalous objects. Due to circumstances outside of our control, this directive has now changed. Our new mission will be the extermination of the human race. There will be no further communication." End quote. It was the formal precursor to a global strike. Which brings us to Node 3, Tactical Deployment of Anomalies, the extermination phase. The initial strike data shows a classic shock and awe protocol. They took our most dangerous contained anomalies and essentially weaponized them to maximize immediate civilian casualties. They circulated images of SCP-096's face globally across social media feeds, causing mass fatalities before any networks could even react. They detonated nuclear charges along the dormant Leviathan SCP-169 to trigger massive targeted tsunamis, and they manually dispersed the biological flesh virus SCP-610 right into the centers of major cities like New York and Delhi. After the shock phase, the tactical deployment shifted towards sustained cruelty and environmental attrition. It's highly systematic. They forced the eruption of the Yellowstone caldera, creating an ash fallout that mathematically guaranteed eventual global asphyxiation. They hijacked news broadcasts to induce psychological despair. They deployed reality-bending loyalists to wipe out isolated refugee camps, and they literally airdropped hostile biological eggs over populated zones to hunt down any remaining stragglers. Pietro's archival footage logs a truly bizarre, anomalous wasteland left in the wake. He encounters entities he dubs blinkers, creatures wearing Foundation uniforms that are perfectly harmless when you maintain line of sight, but the millisecond you look away, they move impossibly fast with bladed arms. The logs also show a reality-warping stretched entity dragging black gaps in space across the horizon, and horrifying biological mutations, like drainage ditches clogged with pale worms that all share the laughing face of a dead child. Node 4. The fragmented global resistance and their futile containment efforts. Obviously, the remaining anomalous agencies attempted defensive maneuvers. The Global Occult Coalition led massive evacuation efforts and locked down a fortified oceanic stronghold called Ganzir. The Church of the Broken God actually managed to halt the spread of the flesh virus and even tried rebuilding global internet infrastructure. But objectively, against the Foundation's entire uninhibited arsenal, their collective failure was simply a mathematical inevitability. We have a decrypted audio log from an interrogation at Ganzar that is genuinely unnerving. They captured a Foundation operative, Samuel Ross. His captors quickly realized that Foundation operatives no longer possessed any pain response whatsoever. You simply cannot interrogate a subject who feels nothing. Worse, Ross weaponized a verbal cognitohazard during the session, transmitting a lethal auditory infection that instantly eliminated the interrogators. Ganzar fell shortly after that recording. So what exactly was the catalyst for all of this? The data fragments point directly back to Project Puma. When the Foundation mapped the human psychospace, they uncovered a parasitic, metaphysical entity dwelling deep within the collective unconscious, an entity that is fundamentally bound to our neurology and feeds entirely on human pain. You see, according to the Foundation's new, twisted internal logic, baseline humanity was suddenly reclassified as an infected host. They achieved a cured state for their own personnel using a mimetic inoculation hidden within those harden your hearts files, which cleanly excised empathy and the capacity for pain. But to destroy the parasite on a global scale, the clinical conclusion was that they had to systematically exterminate all remaining infected hosts. Complete eradication. Finally, we reach Node 5, Convergence and Final Sacrifice. Let's look at the temporal reset variable. During his transit, Pietro ends up possessing a highly anomalous briefcase. Its primary function, a spatial skip mechanism. Whenever he was trapped or overwhelmed, opening it would instantly teleport him miles closer to a specific destination. His memory of how he even acquired the artifact was wiped. He was left with only one singular implanted compulsion: deliver this briefcase to SCP-579 at Site-62C. Everything converges at the subterranean facility, Site-62C. The standard security is abandoned, but those anomalous blinkers manage to track his location based purely on his line of sight, forcing a desperate pursuit down into the facility. As Pietro approaches the containment chamber, the ambient metaphysical pressure is absolutely immense. He clinically logs the localized fight or flight response as feeling exactly like a gun pressed directly against the back of his head. Pietro's final journal entry is completely detached from any delusion of heroism. He realizes he never had any true agency in this. He writes, quote, "I'm not the kind of person that can be a detective. I'm just the murder victim. I die for someone else's story." He finally understands that he was nothing more than a mechanical delivery vector, executing a predefined route without ever truly comprehending the underlying variables of the apocalypse. At the very end, standing in the observation chamber directly above the anomaly, he calculates a fatal flaw. The briefcase cannot simply be dropped down the angled shaft to reach its target. To guarantee direct physical contact, Pietro makes a purely mechanical choice. He throws himself into the shaft, utilizing his own corpse to ensure the artifact is delivered directly to SCP-579 upon impact. That terminal physical impact initiated the temporal restructure. The timeline was successfully restored. The apocalypse cataloged in this archive never happened. It exists now purely as a localized data ghost, contained strictly within the damaged memory drives of a deactivated exclusion suit recovered from a dead future. The subject, Pietro Wilson, is currently working at Site-06, completely unaware of his own sacrifice. The timeline is secure. But objectively, this data leaves us with one terrifying, unresolved variable. If the temporal reset means Project Puma never occurred, then that parasitic entity is still living inside our collective unconscious right now? Thanks for joining me on this explainer. I'll see you next time. This concludes today's briefing. If you wish to maintain your current clearance level and ensure continued access to the Versarian database, a subscription to this channel is mandatory. Secure your connection by leaving a like on this file, and log your requests in the comments section below to dictate which anomaly we unseal next. Stay vigilant and expect your next set of logs every day. Secure, contain, protect.